Hey, good morning, everybody. What's up? Trey Griggs here, Beta Consulting Group. So glad to have you join us today for another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership, brought to you by our good friends over at TAFS. Make sure you check them out at TAFS.com. They are the good guys in freight factoring. They are helping owner operators and truck drivers stay on the road with fuel discounts and tire discounts and helping them with cash flow. And what I love about TAFS is that they're all about educating the drivers, educating the carriers on how to run their business most efficiently. As a former educator, it really speaks to my heart. And so love being partnered up with them. If you would, click on the link that's going to be in the comments that Morgan Walter is going to put in the comments today to go directly to my landing page on their website. And that way they know that I sent you there. And also, when you get a chance, check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com. We've got a lot of exciting things going on, including a new swag store, which you can find at shop.betaconsultinggroup.com. We got some cool items on there. We're all about creating a community of people that are pursuing excellence. And as a part of being a community, we might as well have some swag, some apparel to wear together. So check that out. We got some stuff for everybody in there, as well as even including babies. We got a new baby outfit for Word on the Street, the little baby street crew outfit, which is awesome. Joshua Harrison, man, thanks for jumping in. You'll have to go back and watch the episode yesterday with Brent Orsuga. It was a phenomenal episode yesterday, but you can catch it on demand here or on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or wherever you go in that regard. This week's guests have been amazing. So if you haven't listened to the first two guests this week, make sure you go back and check those out. Actually only one this week. What day of the week is it? Oh my gosh, I forgot what day of the week it is. It's only Tuesday, everybody. But yesterday, Brent Orsuga just lit up the week. It was awesome. We had a great conversation. He talked about investing in developing himself in personal development and improvement, and the time and the money that he's invested to be part of groups and entrepreneur groups. It's awesome. Can't wait to bring my friend Adrian on today. We're going to talk about recruiting. Tomorrow, Steve Schmidt, CRO over at CellX, is going to be on. Awesome story. This guy's going to be fire. David Villa on Thursday, an awesome content creator. And then Jim Becker, CEO of Becker Logistics, on Friday, good friend of mine who's been around creating content and helping people for a long, long time. So it's going to be a great week of shows. And super excited about all the guests that we have this week. Chris Horton, what's up, buddy? Swag does matter. Absolutely. It matters. It matters if it's good. It matters if it's high quality, if it's well-designed, if it's useful. It says a lot about your company. So thanks for the shout out there. All right, let's get this show on the road. This guy, a good friend of mine, I've known him for about 2 years now. I think I met him right during the beginning of the pandemic, one of my pan friends, as they call him. And we had a chance to get to know each other. And he is an entrepreneur as well. Started his journey a little bit before me a couple of years ago as a recruiter. And is just a great guy in the marketplace out of just south of Springfield, Missouri. Everybody, welcome to the show, the founder and CEO of Cover 3 Consulting, my good friend, Adrian Chapman. Adrian, what's up, buddy? Uh-oh, we may have a delay. This may not be good. Adrian looks good, though. Look at him. He's right there. He looks really good. Adrian, can you hear me?
Hey.
Do we have you online?
How's everybody doing?
Oh, we may have a delay today. Adrian, can you hear me?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, we can. Okay. All right. Here's what we're going to do, everybody.
How we doing? Can you guys hear me?
We're going to take him out of the show. This is what happens when you go live. You just never know if it's going to work out. So, well, let me tell you about Adrian real quick before we jump in. So Adrian's been a recruiter for a long time. He started in the Kansas City area, did a lot of recruiting directly for a company. And then about 2 years ago, went out on his own to do some recruiting and took the entrepreneur's journey. And I remember watching him on that journey as somebody thinking to myself, man, I wish I had the courage to do that. I wish I had the courage to, step out on my own and, and give it a shot, because, it's not easy being an entrepreneur. And yet he did that. And as most entrepreneurs find out, when you take that leap, you just kind of figure it out. And it's been good to watch him in his journey and what he's been able to do. And so it's going to be, hopefully we can get him on the line here in just a minute. Let's see if he's back. Let's just check real quick. Adrian, are you there? Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. There's just a little bit of a delay. We're going to see if we can make this work. You look good, though. You look great.
Okay,
I got a chance to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Talk a little bit, for those who maybe don't know who you are, talk a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now with Cover 3 Consulting.
Sure. Yeah. So Cover 3 is a recruiting firm in the transportation industry. We have been around for about 3 years. After about I don't know, probably, 6 or 7 years recruiting, and then obviously running recruiting for a group of transportation companies out of the Kansas City area. Really, we say our goal is to build championship teams for a bigger purpose. So we want to glorify God. We want to help other people. And, I've always said Cover 3 comes out of my background as a former college athlete and coach. We want to put people in the best position to win. Because when I was a coach, I feel like the whole idea was, if you can put really great athletes in the right position, obviously coaching matters, but great athletes are going to find a way to win. And I think the same thing can be said for great businesses. If you could put right people in the right places, they're going to win.
Yeah, I love that. I love your athletic background. First of all, let's just say this. I love the fact that you just said that you're there to glorify God, because that's a huge part of what we're doing here at Beta Consulting Group. We just understand that God's hand is at play here, and we just want to honor Him with that. And so I love that, man. I appreciate you being a man of faith and being bold in your faith, which is awesome. But you're also an athlete. You're a former athlete as well. And that's kind of where the Cover 3 consulting comes from. Some people might not know it, but Cover 3 Cover 3 is a football term. I'm not a huge football, I never played football. I'm a fan. Talk a little bit about your background in athletics and what led to, your name and what that's all about.
Yeah. So started out, I was a football and track athlete in high school. Was, fairly gifted for a high school athlete. I was kind of all everything in football. I ended up winning a state championship, Ozark High School.
Did you
track
really?
and field.
Nice.
Yeah. So that kind of helped set me up for some success, and got a college scholarship. Started out at Central Missouri, and played football there and ran track for a couple years. Kind of had to pick at one point, but ended up then transferring my senior year of college to Minnesota State University, where I finished up my career. College, got to play with some awesome talent. I appreciate that, Chris. Good.
That's right. Ball guys fly together.
That's right. That's right. But I got a chance to play with some really talented guys in college. I was a Division II athlete, but played with guys like Adam Thielen, who plays for the Minnesota Vikings, Delaney Walker, who was an All-Pro tight end in the NFL for a number of years. Played against a lot of guys who played in the league for a long time. And so, I got a chance to work out for a few pro teams when I got done, but didn't make any teams. And had a chance once I got finished to essentially, try out for an arena team. Made an arena team and kind of had to decide, am I going to try to go that route, or am I going to coach? And I thought I was going to coach, and ended up, they kind of paid monopoly money in arena football. so I was like, once I figured that out, I was like, man, chances don't look good. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the coaching world. And honestly, that's where the recruiting journey started for me. I had been recruited throughout the high school process, and that was a really formative process for me. Part of it was because I came from a small school. Not a lot of college coaches really showed up to Ozark High School to recruit kids. And I felt like, man, maybe I could have done more if I had been recruited more. And so I always wondered what was behind that. How do you get recruited? What's the process like? And as a college coach myself, I took a lot of pride in recruiting. And so had a chance to recruit some awesome guys. Started out at Mid-American Nazarene University when I coached in Kansas City. Ended up
Pioneers.
The
Pioneers.
That's right. The Pioneers. Weren't they rivals of William Jewell, by the way?
They were rivals of William Jewell where I went to school. Yes, they were. Some great basketball games in my day at Jewell between Mid-America and I'm ticked a little bit because William Jewell got to the Final Four 3 out of 4 years when I was in school, but Mid-America actually won the championship. And not happy about that. But anyways, no, that's all right. That's all right. I know it's just deep wounds, man, deep wounds. But anyways, keep going. Talk about your coaching journey.
No, that's okay. No, all I'll say, we had some good success there. I was only coaching for about 3 years. We were a game away from the national championship one year. I had 2 All-Americans while I was coaching, under me. And then in that time frame, 2 or 3. And then I had ended up recruiting several guys who ended up both all-conference and All-Americans. And it was really interesting to be able to watch those guys just develop and see the impact. Helping those guys get their education, coaching them, and seeing just where they went in life. And so, after that, jumped into, some recruiting and sales, which kind of set me off on my journey, to where I am today. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Talk a little bit about your coaching experience in college and how that helps you today, because you're in recruiting now and you're helping prospective employees look good for employers. You're working with employers to try to find a good fit in a prospective employee. How much of that time as a coach impact what you're doing today and how you work with both sides of that equation?
Greatly impacts what I do now. I think you kind of have always talk about like a team mentality, right? Like, we always had coaches tell me, who you are off the field, directly impacts who you are on the field, right? So your character and integrity off the field, how you show up to, study hall, how you show up in class, how you show up, on the weekends when you're seeing other people in the community. Well, that's going to impact your disciplines and your habits. That's going to impact how you perform on the field. And most of the time, what they meant by that is that you're not just going to one day walk onto the field if you haven't been disciplined the whole week suddenly and show up and be a killer on Saturdays, right? And for me, that rang true both as a player and then as a coach. I knew that I had to put the work in, and I knew I had to represent that for my players as well. I had to be there consistently and make sure that I was a representative of practicing what I preach. And so that transfers over for me today, right? I've got to show up every single day, and then I tell people the same thing when they're looking at potential roles as well. You have to be able to be who you say you are. You've got to be able to prove who you are, both from a performance standpoint, but also from a character, integrity, and values standpoint as well. And being able to communicate that within an interview process is highly important as well.
Yeah, there's so many values and characteristics from sports that you can translate into life, and it truly is that however you do anything is how you do everything. And
Right.
I love when you said that you had to show up, you had to actually show the guys what they were doing, because that's what a true leader does. A leader shows the way, goes the way, knows the way, shows the way, goes the way. Whatever that saying is, like, it's really important that that's true. I talked about that recently with a friend with Hayden Allred on Monday morning on Iron Minds. We talked
Yeah.
about parental hypocrisy. How you can
Hmm.
be a hypocritical parent until about age 8, and then after a while they start to catch up and go, hey, mom and dad aren't doing what they are telling me to do. They're not living the way they're telling me to live, and they see right through that. But
My
that's so true
3-year-old's
for
already calling me out. So
it happens early. It can start early. But there's something to be said about, like, what you tell people to do is what you're doing, and you're consistent about that. I think that's really important, especially if you want to be in leadership. Leadership is not a requirement, but neither is being true to yourself and working hard and showing up every day. Those aren't requirements either. And so if you want to be in that leadership position, I think you've got to be somebody who follows through with what you tell other people to do. It's one of my favorite parts about that Michael Jordan documentary, Last Dance, is
yeah,
he said, hey, I never asked anybody to do something I wasn't willing to do. And
love that.
that people will follow a leader like that, even if they, are a little rough around the edges or a jerk sometimes or whatever. They'll follow somebody who is honest to themselves and everybody else. And I love that,
100%
absolutely.
agreed.
Yeah, Joshua, agree with that. Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. That's a pretty common philosophy for leaders. And man, I mean, I feel like my wife and I just talked about that. That, hey, listen, if we're going to tell our kids not to be addicted to technology, then we better not be addicted to technology as well. We better be able to turn it off. We better be able to put it down when we get home or off to the side or late at night or whatever our boundaries are that we set. We better be able to follow them if we want our kids to to follow them as well, which I think is really, really critical. All right. So, Adrian, so you are an entrepreneur. You started this journey about 2 years ago. When did you start Cover 3 Consulting? I want to say it was like spring or summer of 2020, wasn't it? Or was it before that?
It was 2019. So it was 2019. It was
2019.
it
Okay.
was several months before the pandemic. So we had gotten a good, nice head start, and then things were good, and then the pandemic hit, and I got a lot of calls like, "Hey, good time to start a business, huh? A recruiting business, especially."
Everybody's laying
Which,
people off. Nobody's hiring. Good luck.
exactly, exactly. So I was like, "Yeah, yeah, this is great, going great so far. Thanks, everybody." But no, yeah, we obviously that was a interesting and concerning, but it's been a rocket ship since then. And obviously, the industry continues to hire, and we'll kind of see what happens here in the back half of this year. But it's been crazy, and we're very thankful
Yeah.
for both our clients and just the industry in general.
What was it like when you started the business? Because for people who haven't started a business, there's just a little fear involved. It's scary. There's the unknown. You just don't know how it's going to turn out. And especially as you started and then jumping into the pandemic where everybody put everything on pause, hiring was on pause, people were getting laid off a little bit at the beginning. What were some things that you learned, that have really helped you out moving forward that you probably would not have learned had you not gone through that situation?
Yeah, good question. I think first thing is trust yourself, right? Trust yourself and trust the skills that you've developed. You've made it this far for a reason. One of the things I tell other people who ask me about, hey, should I, go out on my own or be an entrepreneur is, it's obviously not for everybody, and I would tell anybody that, right? It's
Right.
working for somebody that's a great thing, and it's a good thing and a noble thing. But jumping out on your own, one of the best things I learned and smartest things I did was I told my wife at the very beginning, we're on the same team, and your family, you've got to be on the same team. And so I was just really open and honest with her and just said, hey, here is what I want to do. Here is exactly how we will make money if I do this. Here's the process of that. And I said, how much do we need to save, for you to feel comfortable, that if I'm a colossal failure, that will still be fine. And so, we put that money in the bank before we started. And, fortunately, we had good success and took off there. But that gave us peace of mind to say, hey, it gave me a runway to fail if that was a possibility, and knowing that failure is a possibility. So I think communicating with your family is key, and just being extremely transparent, because they're your first team when you start, right? I mean, they are your team. And then
100%. Yeah.
and then just trusting yourself, and knowing that your skills will work, and then being willing to have some mistakes and fails, knowing that it's going to happen, right? Like, you're going to make some dumb mistakes, as long as you're not willing to just live in that mistake and to continue to push forward. So.
Yeah, well, what you said about, communicating with your wife and being transparent, and it's so critical. I've talked to some other entrepreneurs that have basically just said, "Hey, listen, if it wasn't for my wife's support,
Yeah.
this wouldn't even exist. We wouldn't even have started this thing." And that's the same thing with Beta Consulting Group. Like, there's no way this even begins without Tammy Griggs saying, "Yeah, okay, let's do it,"
Yep.
and having her support. And I'm not nearly as responsible as you are. You're a much more responsible guy than I am. I didn't put as much money in the bank as you did to start. We just kind of started. But at the same time, it goes back to, like your thoughtfulness for your wife, your communication, your transparency, knowing what would help your wife in those situations. But then ultimately coming back to what we both believe, and that is, this is all at the hand of God, his provision. He's going to
Right.
provide. And when you think about failures and successes, they're really just moments to learn. Failures are just moments to learn, to figure out how to get it right. And to not hold it against yourself. Just keep moving, keep working, make corrections, and keep working. But at the end of the day, God says in his word that he takes care of all the sparrows, and he dresses the lilies of the fields. How much more does he love us? Like, what? We don't have anything to fear, but there's still that human fear, that human element of, like, what happens if I fail? What happens if what happens if this really goes south? What happens if I really screw this up? So there's a balancing act there between, man, having the support of your family, leading your family well, being transparent and honest, also just being fully dependent upon God for the results, and seeing what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And I was just about to bring that same verse up. So it's crazy that you brought that up. It's knowing that, hey, if he's willing to take care of the sparrows, right, how much more will he care for me, right?
Yeah.
How much more does
Yeah.
he care for me? And if I can, trust God, then I can trust myself, because, I believe that, I'm made in his image, right? I'm made in his DNA. So I've got the DNA of the creator, of God. And so I know that he's given me the tools to succeed, but I might have to chisel that out a little bit. Might have to, uncover those tools and learn and figure some things out to get where I'm going. But ultimately, that's a confidence in God and where He's brought me, and sometimes too, just the people around me. Sometimes it's not about me; it's about, hey, who do I need to talk to? Who can help me through this, and show me where I need to go? That God equipped me with, or given me, the network that I need.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up because this is also something I've learned in my journey, and that is leadership really is a team sport. When you're leading a company, when you're trying to direct a company, have vision and oversee what's going on, it can feel very lonely. But having a great team around you, communicating with your team is number one, like in that regard. But number two, it's surrounding yourself with other CEOs, other leaders who can pour into you, who can really, give you a lot of the confidence that you need, some of the information, some of the education, some of the lessons they learned. Passing those lessons on and kind of helping each other out. Who are some of the people, if you don't mind sharing, that you have in your life that have really impacted your journey as an entrepreneur and as a leader?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I mean, I'd say first, I think of e-shipping. I worked for e-shipping for a number of years before I jumped out
Out of North
and started
Kansas
my
City.
industry.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right, in KC. And honestly, I had been kind of burnt out from business and was like, man, maybe I should go back to coaching. Wasn't really sure before I jumped over to e-shipping. Just had seen business done the wrong way. Hadn't seen it done well. And met Chad Earwood, who's the founder and CEO of
Great dude.
e-shipping
Yeah.
and Engaged Companies. Yeah. And then also Tony Tata, who's the chief revenue officer there. And I met a couple of gentlemen who just high values, ultimately, care about glorifying God with their lives and their business. And then just see that business could be done in a different way. Business could be done well. You can serve people well and glorify God. You can serve people well and take care of your family. And that was an eye opener to me. It was a culture that really stuck out, that was really healthy. And that was a really game changer in my life to see there could be good, healthy cultures, healthy families, and healthy businesses done well. So I would say those guys first. And then I had a coach in college as well who was kind of an impact. He was always a cheerleader for me. His name is Joe Klanderman. He's a defensive coordinator for Kansas State now. He was my defensive coordinator in college, and he was the guy I stayed in touch with. I was like, man, should I be a coach? Should I go into business? And I always had stayed in touch with him, throughout the years, and he was just always encouraging. Awesome guy. I remember he wrote me a letter. When we graduated, I think he wrote a letter to everybody that graduated, but I saved it today because it was so impactful for me. It just talked about, how he believed I could do great things and believed in me. And I was like, man, like, why me? Like, why would you say those things about me? But it also gave me so much confidence to believe that I was capable of making an impact on other people and helping other people, and the willingness to jump out and start as an entrepreneur. As well. And man, I could list, a bunch of other people out there, but those are a few.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's amazing how some people can speak into your life in a way that is so impactful. It gives you the confidence to do some things that maybe you just weren't quite sure that you'd be willing to do those. When you were coaching football, what position did you coach? What did you do?
Defensive backs, right? So free safeties, strong safeties, corners, nickels.
Is that the position you played?
Yeah, I played all of those. Yeah, most of those positions I played in at some point.
Nice. Do you ever wonder, man, I wish I would have stuck this out in coaching to see how far you could have gotten, or what was the determining point for you to say, all right, let's move on and do something else?
Yeah, no, I still probably have those days and moments where I'm like, man, I wonder what if or what have you, especially around this time of year where like the season's about to start and you smell like fresh cut grass, or you hear whistles blow if you're like out of practice and you're just like, oh man, for
I want to get out there.
however many years of my life, this is the time that you like get back into camp mode and 2 days are about to start. But yeah, I think about it. The turning point I think for me was I had been like 3 years in, got my master's at Mid-America, and I was interviewing for other possible coaching jobs. But I started to look around me at the other men who were coaching in the industry, and the resumes of a lot of those guys were like every year they had to move, like move to South Dakota for a job, move to Texas for a job, move to North Carolina for a job, move to Indiana for a job. And sometimes it was a big school, sometimes it was like, North Dakota Wesleyan, and like nothing wrong with if that's a school or not. I don't know. It was just like middle of nowhere school. And I was like, do I really want to do that? Like, do I love football that much? And the answer, which, I had to come to grips with, was like, I don't know that I love football that much, which was a really good thing. But that's what did it for me.
Yeah, I think if you're going to coach, especially at the college or NFL ranks, you have to just live and breathe that more than anything else, and want to do that more than anything. And it's tough. I mean, you see the college coaches that are making $4, $5, $6, $7 million a year. They didn't start there, And it took them a long time to get there, and they had to go through, the ringer and those kind of things. I felt the same way when it came to broadcasting, because I was broadcasting football and basketball games in college, and loved it. I mean, it was a blast. But when you go out to broadcasting, you have to work for pennies on the dollar, do stuff behind the scenes, and then hope to catch your break. Hope that somebody sees something in you and gives you a shot, and that you don't screw it up, because a lot of times you only get one or two shots at that. If you're not good on the radio or good on TV, it doesn't last too long. And sometimes I think, man, I wish I'd have stuck that out. But it came down to the same thing of like, do I really love this enough to go through that? And the answer at the time was like, I don't think that I mean, obviously I wasn't willing to do it. So that's, it says a lot about that. It's important, I think, to know yourself and to know what you want. When I was a high school teacher and was coaching sports, my wife wanted to stay home when we had our first child, our daughter. And we tried that for a couple of years, but I thought to myself, man, I don't want to be that coach who is coaching every single season just to make ends meet, and I'm never home. And so understanding kind of what you want, or maybe even more important, understanding what you don't want, is huge in terms of helping make decisions to figure out exactly what you do want and move in that direction.
100%.
So,
and I see that every day.
No, go ahead.
Obviously, I see that every day in what I do. It's that's part of the conversation we have. And I had it, with a gentleman I met with this morning, is like, the best thing that I can do is just be honest with you and just give you some clarity about the companies that I work with and the role that you're looking at, because the worst thing I could do is put you in a role that you're not happy with. You want to align with the mission and vision of an organization, and then that also match your skill set. And sometimes, those things align and it's magic. And other times, if something really major is off, whether it's, time with family, or, the skill sets don't align, that doesn't match with your, personality type or your ability, don't do it. And that's okay. If somebody's trying to push you into that, that's probably a warning sign that maybe you should double check before you jump in.
Yeah. How many companies, what would you guess? Because obviously I don't want you to share any proprietary information about your clients, but how many companies out there struggle with their mission and vision and really being able to communicate that in a way to sell their culture to prospective employees?
Yeah, I would say candidly, most of them. There are some that do it really well. And when I say most, like, everybody can improve, right? There are some that you see do an outstanding job. But I think so many companies are so goal focused. And so, whether that's numbers or they're just, individually focused on their area, that they don't focus on the overall direction that the ship is going. Everybody's really busy on the ship with their role, whatever they do, but they're not focused on, hey, what's the direction that the ship is going? Are we going over here? Are we going to Hawaii? Are we going to, Iceland, or where the heck is the ship moving? And they really need to pause and get together and say, hey, let's make sure that everybody knows that, like, the goal is Hawaii. I mean, I want to go to Hawaii. So it's like, let's figure that out, because that could be motivating, right? And if that is motivating, then everybody's going to work so much harder at their job rather than, working out of fear or working out of something else.
And it helps too to make decisions to say, hey, this is not something we want to do because it doesn't help us get to Hawaii. Or this is something we should do because this is going to help us get to Hawaii. And then you can start to allow people to make decisions when everybody's aligned, because you're teaching them, hey, if the decision aligns with going to Hawaii, then go ahead and make it. If it doesn't, then say no. And a lot of times that helps with management, helps with delegation. I think companies really do a disservice themselves, a huge miss, when they don't align with their mission, vision, and core values with their team, selling that, communicating those types of things, and getting people on the same page. That's it's a huge miss that a lot of companies have. But I'm sure that's one of the things you get to do, is you get to say, hey, have you guys thought about your mission and vision? what's your goal here? And then you can help them with some of those types of things as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a big part of the process. I mean, we do a ton of recruiting, but that's a big part of the front end with us, is to say, hey, let's really talk about and do some consulting there, because like you said, I mean, obviously it's going to help you operate as a business better, but I mean, you're going to recruit better, because if you hold a sign up when people are getting on and off the boat that says we're going to Hawaii, right? People who don't want to go to Hawaii should not get on that boat.
Get on the boat. That's right.
And that's good. Like, that it would be way better if suddenly, you didn't have a sign on the boat, and then, you have a bunch of people who are like, oh gosh, I was hoping to go to Iceland, and 50% of those people are like, I think we should jump off the boat. that's bad news, right?
It's really
So
bad. It's a great
yeah,
analogy, by the way. You should capture this in like a meme or in a picture or something. This is a really good analogy about
I'll
recruiting.
make
And
an animation or something like
yeah.
that.
So listen, we're at 30 minutes, my friend. It goes really fast. Appreciate you being on the show today. I do
Of
want to
course.
highlight real quick for those that are listening that you have a podcast. It's
Mhm.
called the Recruiting Stories Podcast. It can be found Apple, Spotify, everywhere that's out there. What's the gist behind the podcast? What are you trying to accomplish? And by the way, thank you for letting me be on that recently. I enjoyed that.
I was about to say Trey Griggs was our most recent guest, so check that one out, everybody. Yeah, the
Freshest guest on
idea
the show right there.
yeah, yeah. The idea of the show is we want to tell the stories of how leaders, top performers, people in the industry, how recruiting impacted their journey. Because for most of us, at some point, whether it was a recruiter or a friend or a spouse or a manager or leader, somebody at some point said, "Hey, I believe in you," or "I think you're capable of something." And that one little thing, whether that was recruiting or just a conversation, completely altered the course of someone's life. So we explore that with people in the industry to say, hey, at what point was your life altered by recruiting? And then, how does that impact, you today and maybe your thoughts on just the recruiting industry
Yeah, no, it's a great podcast. I appreciate you having me on, which was awesome.
yeah,
And I hope you guys can catch that out. We'll try to put the links into the show notes so you guys can see that.
sounds
But
good.
Adrian, thanks for being on the show, man. Appreciate it. Hope you'll
Thanks for
come
having
back
me.
and see us soon. For everybody who is watching, thanks for the comments and for engaging. Tomorrow, make sure you come back for Steven Schmidt. This guy's he's just incredible leader. Great story about growing CellX. They just partnered up with the company and they're doing incredible things. Really good from a lead generation standpoint, from a sales perspective as well. So make sure you guys come back tomorrow at 10:30 for that, and every day for another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, leadership, powered by Beta Consulting Group. And one more shout out to our friends over at TAFS. We appreciate that. And keep your eyes open. The swag store is available. We're going to start doing some giveaways, probably starting Friday, moving to next week. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. So it's going to be awesome. But you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Thanks, Adrian.